There's a grocery store near you, probably one you shopped at this week, that threw away more food last night than most families eat in a month. Not damaged food, not food that fell on the floor. Food that was perfectly edible at 11 p.m. and became waste at midnight, the moment a printed date flipped from acceptable to inconvenient. You never see it happen. That is by design. Most people have a vague sense that supermarkets throw things away. What they do not know, what the industry has never been particularly eager to explain, is the scale of it, the system behind it, and the chain of decisions that moves food from a shelf to a dumpster while families 3 blocks away are skipping meals. The United States throws away roughly 80 billion pounds of food every year. Supermarkets and grocery retailers account for a significant slice of that number. Some estimates place retail food waste at 10% of the total food supply. Food that was grown, harvested, processed, packaged, refrigerated, shipped, and stocked on a shelf, only to be pulled, bagged, and discarded before a single person ate it. That is not an accident. It is a workflow. Here is how it actually works, and why it is more complicated and more troubling than a simple story about waste. Every product on a grocery shelf carries a date: sell by, best by, use by. Most consumers treat these dates as expiration stamps, hard deadlines after which food becomes dangerous. The food industry knows something different. The overwhelming majority of these dates are not safety indicators. They are quality indicators, set by manufacturers, largely unregulated by federal law, and calibrated to encourage purchase before peak freshness, rather than to mark the boundary between safe and unsafe. Milk labeled sell by June 5th is almost certainly safe to drink on June 7th. Canned goods marked best by a year ago are, in most cases, still nutritionally intact. The USDA has stated publicly that with the exception of infant formula, there is no federal regulation requiring food expiration dates of any kind. The dates exist, but their meaning is softer and more commercial than most people ever realize. And yet, when those dates arrive, store policy in most major chains triggers automatic removal, because the liability of selling something a customer later questions far outweighs the cost of simply pulling it. The food does not become dangerous at midnight, but the store's legal exposure does become uncomfortable, so out it goes. What happens next depends on the store, the region, and frankly, how much effort the management is willing to invest in something that generates no revenue. The best case scenario is donation. A growing number of retailers partner with food banks and hunger relief organizations. Networks like Feeding America coordinate with major chains to redirect edible food before it hits the waste stream. When this works, it works well. Families receive food that is nutritionally sound, and stores receive tax deductions that partially offset the cost of the donated goods. It is genuinely good, and it genuinely happens. But it does not happen nearly enough. Logistics are the problem. Food donations require refrigerated transport, liability management, staff time to sort and package, and coordination with organizations that have their own capacity limits. On a busy Tuesday night with a skeleton crew, pulling 30 units of yogurt and arranging a pickup is simply not the priority. And so the yogurt goes into a compactor instead. Faster, simpler, finished. What cannot be donated or composted often ends up exactly where you imagine it does, in commercial waste bins, headed for landfill. And here is where the problem compounds itself chemically. Food in landfill does not simply decompose and disappear. Buried under layers of other waste, cut off from oxygen, it breaks down anaerobically and releases methane, a greenhouse gas roughly 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide over a 20-year window. The food we threw away did not just feed no one. It is now actively heating the planet. And the quiet, almost unbearable irony sitting underneath all of this is that the same evening a store compactor is running, someone nearby is making the kind of choices about dinner that no one should have to make. That is the system. Not evil, not simple, but also not inevitable. And that is exactly what makes it worth understanding.